Hello and welcome. Tonight, ahead of the October 10th Ondo governorship poll, candidate of the SDP steps down for APC candidate. Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, as 11 political parties back PDP candidate Iyitayo Jegede. Good times for teachers in the country as President Muhammadu Buhari approves special salary scale and an extended retirement age for them. Presidency vows not to succumb to pressure arising from calls by some Nigerians for the restructuring of the country. And U.S. President Donald Trump to leave hospital today after spending 3 days at Walter Reed Medical Center following his COVID-19 diagnosis as number of infections exceed 36,000 in one day. Plus, business, sports, and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, European Union countries pick Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and South Korean for final shortlist in second phase of consultations for the World Trade Organization's top job.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria Football Federation announces the appointment of American Randy Waldrum as the new head coach of the Super Falcons.
It's less than 6 days to the Ondo State governorship election on October the 10th, and the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Mr. Peter Fashola, has withdrawn from the race, endorsing Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. Mr. Fashola explains that he is throwing his weight behind Governor Akeredolu because of his wealth of experience and promises to deploy every resource meant for his campaign to the governor's victory. The endorsement comes as Governor Akeredolu takes his campaign to Odigbo local government area. Odigbo local government area in Ondo State is in the Central Senatorial District when Governor Rotimi Akeredolu visits for his re-election campaign. The community leaders say it's not necessary, commending his leadership style.
Mr. Governor to perform beyond our expectation. Anybody to fetch a governor from the Southern Senatorial District go duro de Odumeri.
From there to the campaign ground. Governor Akeredolu expresses confidence in the support base. He says he's here to encourage the rank and file of his supporters.
People have been mobilized to cultivate others, and it's important for me to be here to be with them too, so that they will know, at least now, we have more or less like what we have done here is to pep them up.
The neighboring Osun State Governor, Boyega Oyetola, is around to show support.
If you look at this particular local government, a lot of the indigents of Osun are here. So I've come to really rally that support for the government. And I'm happy that God has said this election is won by the grace of God.
Governor Rotimi Akeredolu is here with Ekiti State indigents who are residents in Ondo State, who've endorsed him as their candidate. The association, which boasts of 17,000 members, promising to vote for the governor.
This is not the first time they have been supporting the governor. You know, in 2012 they did the same, and it reflected in the votes. In 2016 they did the same, and it reflected in the game. And now that they have elected him, and he has not disappointed them, and with the relationship that is coming up, so I know that these are not the people that lies, they are not the people that cajole. Their organization, their support group.
Governor Rotimi Akeredolu now has to wait till Saturday, October 10th, to see the outcome of this support. While the SDP candidate declared his support for Governor Akeredolu, the state chairman of the same party is leading 11 out of the 17 political parties participating in the election to support the People's Democratic Party candidate, Iyitayo Jegede. The SDP chairman in the state, Oladile Ogunbameru, says the parties, including APGA and the Young Progressives Party, believe only the PDP can offer good governance to the people. Meanwhile, the PDP candidate has met with Igbo and Hausa leaders in the state as part of his campaign to woo non-indigents.
Governorship candidate of the PDP in Ondo State, Eyitayo Jegede, in a town hall meeting with campaign volunteers of the party in Akure, the state capital. He is joined by the chairman of the PDP campaign committee for the Ondo governorship election, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, present the party's vision. It's considered a crucial meeting as Akure, the state capital, doubles as the headquarters of Akure South local government area and has the highest number of electorates in Ondo State. And volunteers at this meeting are expected to canvass for votes ahead of Saturday's election.
We want PDP to take their rightful position. Right now, Jegede is the right man. He is the man that can take care of all the things that PDP did before.
The PDP candidate is impressed with the turnout of supporters.
We've told our people that notwithstanding the fact that they're tearing our posters, pulling down billboards, they cannot tear our fingers. They cannot seize our fingers. And our people have resolved that they use these fingers to defeat them come 10th of this month by the grace of God.
It is so obvious, that the people are yearning for something new. They don't want to continue with what they have seen over the past 4 years.
Meanwhile, part of the PDP's campaign strategy is to win over non-indigents in the state, which is why Mr. Jegede is meeting with leaders of the Igbo indigents also in Akure.
We win the election by God's grace. And what happened in Oyo, PDP won. In Edo, PDP won. Yes. In Ondo, PDP won.
Former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, and a former member of the House of Reps, Rita Orji, reassured those in attendance that the PDP candidate is capable of turning the state's fortunes around.
The competence of Eyitayo Jegede being able to deliver and build a prosperous Ondo State, where Ondo will be doing well in health, in education, and everything, and people are doing well.
The PDP team had earlier visited Ondo town, where members met with some community leaders as well as a Hausa settlement in the town. They also stopped by the country home of the national leader for the Pan-Yoruba socio-political group Afenifere, Pa Ruben Fashionroti.
Staying with the Ondo governorship election, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and police authorities have offered an emphatic promise that the next governor of Ondo State will be determined by the electorate. Both the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, and the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, reaffirmed this at a stakeholders meeting in Akure, the state capital. Professor Yakubu also gave the assurance that sensitive material will be deployed as scheduled and card readers will be used.
Our commitment is to ensure that the choice of who becomes the next governor of Ondo State is entirely in the hands of the voters. I wish to assure all eligible voters that every vote cast will count, and only the choice made by the people of Ondo State will determine the outcome of the election.
This personnel shall be deployed to adequately secure the 3,009 polling units in 203 wards spread over the 18 local government areas of the state. They are to protect the personnel and assets of INEC, the electorate, and residents of Ondo State in general before, during, and after the elections. The rationale for this deployment is purposeful and strategic. Firstly, we are drawing from the experiences garnered in the recently concluded election and proactively responding to the outcome of the intelligence analysis arising from our election threat assessment of Ondo State governorship elections.
Away from the Ondo State governorship elections to mainstream politics, where Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has restated his position that the People's Democratic Party is big enough for everyone to have a sense of belonging, whether they are current or returning members. The governor mentioned this while receiving a former commissioner for health and APC chieftain back to the PDP fold in Okrika local government area. Our correspondent Jeffrey Uzono reports.
Your Excellency, we thank you.
In defiance of the not-so-clement weather, supporters of the former Commissioner for Health and APC chieftain in Rivers State, Dr. Samson Parker, trooped out to follow the new direction of their leader as it dumps the All Progressives Congress to join the People's Democratic Party in Okochiri Kingdom or Krika local government area of the state. This brings to 3 the number of APC chieftains in recent months who have defected to the PDP from the APC, including Ambrose Nwizo, also known as Obuga. Former majority leader of the State House of Assembly, Mr. Chidi Lloyd, was also in attendance to welcome Dr. Parker.
You have the same right like every other person that has been in this party. You are welcome. I am here today with over 2,000 of APC members in the 12 wards of Okrika. This is just about a few of them that have come out because of the rain. Today, I formally return back to my family, the PDP family. PDP!
Governor Nyesom Wike, who eulogized Dr. Parker for his role in ensuring the mandate of former Governor Rotimi Amechi in 2007, says there is room for everyone in the PDP. And what is paramount in politics is what value and development the leader is able to attract to his people.
You have come to add value to our people and let the leadership understand the more, the merrier. And everybody must be carried along. Last time, and I promised the people of Okrika that I was going to award the second phase of Okochiri internal roads. As I speak to you today, that will be concluded last week Friday. I also told the people of Okrika that I was going to sandfill the ATC area, 25 hectares of land. As I speak to you, Friday last week, that has been awarded.
The political dynamics in Rivers State is witnessing alignment and realignments, perhaps ahead of the next electoral season. And as they say in the game of politics, there are neither permanent friends nor permanent enemies. The only constant factor is interest. Jeffrey Uzongo, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the presidency says the Buhari administration will not succumb to threats made by those calling for a restructuring of the country. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu in a statement says the threat that Nigeria will break up if it's not restructured is unpatriotic and unwarranted. The General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, had on Saturday joined other prominent Nigerians to call on the federal government to urgently restructure the country to save it from breakup. But Mr. Shehu, however, described such calls as recurring threats to the corporate existence of the country. His statement reads in part, "This is to warn that such unpatriotic outbursts are both unhelpful and unwarranted, as this government will not succumb to threats and take any decision out of pressure at a time when the nation's full attention is needed to deal with the security challenges facing it at a time of the COVID-19 health crisis." In part 2, after the break, federal government to deploy 60,000 volunteers to all the local government areas in the country to ensure adherence to COVID-19 protocols as schools reopen fully on October the 12th. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Ahead of the October 10 Ondo governorship poll, candidate of the SDP steps down for APC candidate Rotimi Akeredolu as 11 political parties back PDP candidate Iyitayo Jegede. Good times for teachers in the country as President Muhammadu Buhari approves special salary scale and an extended retirement age for them. Presidency vows not to succumb to pressure arising from calls by some Nigerians for the restructuring of the country. And U.S. President Donald Trump to leave hospital today after spending 3 days at Walter Reed Medical Center following his COVID-19 diagnosis as number of infections exceed 36,000 in 1 day. Plus, business, sports, and later from our studios in London. The president is asking Nigerians to be patient with the government whenever there is any legislation they have misgivings about, saying they should democratically engage the processes for such laws. President Buhari made the appeal while presiding over the joint executive legislative leadership retreat at the banquet hall in the State House, Abuja, where he also wore a face mask. The president also advocated sustaining the synergy between the legislature and the executive arm of government to consolidate on the gains recorded. The two-day retreat is to improve interactions and build consensus between both the arms of government in order to ensure proper service delivery to Nigerians.
The urgent need for aligning the 9-point priority agenda and the legislative agenda of both the Senate and the House of Representatives cannot be overemphasized. I will therefore suggest that a technical committee be established after this retreat to harmonize these critical and strategic documents to help improve synergy and coordination. To drive effective implementation of the resolutions or agreements reached at this retreat and achieve its main objectives, I will also recommend the establishment of a technical working group to synthesize the outcome and make appropriate recommendations to myself and the leadership of the National Assembly for action. Let me also remind our fellow patriots, countrymen, and women that the process of lawmaking and governance are dynamic and ever-evolving. I will seek their indulgence to be patient with any legislation or law which they have certain misgivings about and engage the process for reviewing such laws in line with democratic practices. Our interest is the sincere promotion of our collective will and aspirations to build a nation where justice, peace, and progress are the norm.
President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. To education, the popular saying that the teacher's reward is in heaven appears not to mean anything significant to those in this profession as they continue to agitate for better conditions of service. Now their call for better welfare seems to have been heard by the president nonetheless, who's approved a special salary scale and new retirement age for teachers in the country. The Minister of Education, Mr. Adamu, announced the president's gesture at the occasion to mark World Teachers' Day in Abuja, saying it's aimed at encouraging them to give their best. The president also increased the number of service years for teachers from 35 to 40.
Over the years, Nigerian teachers have continued to agitate for better welfare, especially increasing their salaries and retirement age. This is again brought to the fore as the World Teachers' Day is commemorated in the nation's capital, Abuja. The president of the Nigerian Union of Teachers kickstarts the event with the demand for improved welfare for teachers.
The NUT acknowledged effort being made by the Federal Ministry of Education to enhance the welfare of teachers and the hopes that special teacher salary structure, TSS, and other incentives for teachers be approved to address the peculiarities of teaching career and to uphold the true identity and the state of the profession.
After listening to the demands of the teachers, the Minister of Education delivers the President's speech, as he conveys the approval of a special salary scale for teachers.
Special salary scale for teachers in basic and secondary schools, including provisions for rural posting allowance, science teacher allowances, and peculiar allowances, is hereby given. There will be a special teacher pension scheme to enable the teaching profession to retain its experienced talents as well as extend teachers' retirement age to 65 years.
The Minister of State for Education equally underscores the significance of the World Teachers' Day, which is marked annually.
Having a special day to celebrate the teacher is just but a token gesture of recognition to the sacrificial contribution of teachers. And that is why for us at the Federal Ministry of Education, we are desirous to entrench quality teaching with emphasis on efforts to train, retrain, and reinvigorate the teaching profession with the best amongst us.
Although the special salary scale is for basic and secondary school teachers, the increment of the retirement age for teachers from 60 to 65 and the number of service years from 35 to 40 will no doubt boost teachers' morale across the country.
And concerning education, as schools reopen on Monday, October 12th, the federal government will be deploying 60,000 environmental health emergency volunteers to the 774 local government areas to ensure adherence to the COVID-19 protocols. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Minister of Environment, Dr. Mohammed Abubakar, explains that the health officers will be assisting schools to adopt basic safety measures. Dr. Abubakar says there will be monitoring and evaluation to ensure strict compliance with health protocols.
It's been 7 months since schools closed all activities following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Last week, the federal government announced the reopening of schools. And since then, government officials at various levels are not leaving anything to chance as measures to contain the spread of the pandemic are in top gear.
The 60,000 environmental health volunteers will be working with other stakeholders at the sub-national level in accordance with the guidelines for the safe reopening of schools. The roles of the environment sector generally and specifically that of the environmental health practitioners includes participating in developing detailed protocols, established and maintaining prescribed hygiene standards and practices, including water, sanitation and hygiene, that is wash provisions, additional measures of temperature checks and screening, hand hygiene, access to adequate gender segregated toilet facilities, adequately ventilated classrooms and hostels accommodation.
The 60,000 Environmental Health Emergency Volunteer Corps will be on standby in schools to ensure strict compliance with the COVID-19 protocols. These include maintaining water and sanitation hygiene, temperature checks, and physical distancing.
Though it's a continuous process, provided there is COVID-19, the environmental health volunteers are going to continue mounting the surveillance decks and also making sure that the protocol guideline issued by the PTF is adhered to by all learning centers or learning institutions in the country. So it's a continuous process.
While the government is promising to ensure that all protocols relating to the safe reopening of schools are maintained, they are appealing for the cooperation of parents and school authorities to ensure the health and safety of their wards.
To law enforcement, a day after announcing a ban on highway patrol by the Federal Anti-Robbery Squad FSARS, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, is vowing to ensure that reforms in the police force are carried through. The IGP made this statement when the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Dare, visited him at the force headquarters in Abuja today. The police boss said that the goal of the reform is to prevent the recurrence of extrajudicial activities by some personnel of FSARS and other tactical units of the force. He explained that some of the officers who have been found to be unruly and unprofessional in their dealings with citizens, particularly the youth, have been arrested and are already facing disciplinary action. Meanwhile, more reactions have continued to trail the decision of the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, to ban the operations of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, FSARS. The latest is coming from the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, which says it welcomes with great relief and satisfaction the move to stop the operations of FSARS and other police tactical squads. In a statement, the NGF chairman and Governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, says this will significantly reduce the various infractions and brutality of the force that ordinary Nigerians have been complaining about. According to him, the IGP's instructions have come at a time when the majority of Nigerians are unhappy with these police officers who have routinely engaged in unlawful killing and torture. The forum is therefore calling on the IGP to mete out appropriate sanctions against lawless and irresponsible law enforcement officers in the exercise of their duties. When the news at 10 returns, the European Union votes Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and a South Korean for final shortlist in second phase of consultations for the WTO Director General. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the sum of 10 billion naira for the next phase of the enumeration area demarcation exercise in the remaining 546 local government areas of the country. The acting chairman of the National Population Commission, Dr. Itayo Oyetunji, explains that President Buhari approved an additional 4.5 billion naira in the 2021 budget for the completion of the exercise as part of preparations for the next census. Dr. Oyetunji, who was addressing a news conference in Abuja, explains that the exercise will outline small geographical units called enumeration areas, where the NPC will collate an accurate list of infrastructural facilities and households. Now to the courts. The trial of the former chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team, Mr. Abdul Rashid Maina, has stalled again following his absence from the Federal High Court in Abuja, where he's being tried on charges of money laundering. The trial judge, Justice Okonabeng, was also absent, but Mr. Maina's surety, Senator Ali Ndume, who had earlier told the court he could no longer find the defendant, was present in court. After waiting for over an hour, lawyers and litigants were informed by an official that the court will not be sitting as the judge is indisposed. He subsequently announced that on instruction of the judge, all cases had been adjourned till Tuesday, October the 6th. Mr. Maina's absence from the court is the fourth in a row since September 29, 2020, when his trial was scheduled to resume. The Kano State government has directed the state's Pilgrims Welfare Board to immediately commence preparations for the next year's Hajj operations, including collection of relevant deposits from intending pilgrims. At the launch of the National Hajj scheme, the state government promised continued collaboration with the federal government to ensure Muslims across the country perform the Hajj without much stress. Correspondent Idris Debrin reports that the scheme is the first of its kind in the country.
The journey of over 10 years has finally come to a climax. The launching of first Hajj savings scheme, beginning from now for next year's Hajj operations. The Hajj savings scheme is designed to create opportunity for many Muslims to perform Hajj with ease, which would have been impossible due to lack of funds.
This is both unprecedented and revolutionary for intending pilgrims amidst the prevailing trying moments of the global economy. Kano State government is fully supporting this initiative and will ensure our Pilgrims Welfare Board collaborates with the Commission to avail students of Kano State the opportunities of Hajj with ease and convenience offered by this very important scheme.
The escalating cost of Hajj operations is largely responsible for the National Hajj Commission revisiting Section 7, Subsection 1 of the legal instrument establishing the Commission.
The new system will operate concurrently with what we have known as pay-as-you-go, a transitional period. However, payments made by the 2020 intending pilgrims will remain with their respective state pilgrims welfare board and will be given priority in our preparation for the 2021 Hajj exercise. Intending pilgrims no longer need to sell off or dispose their life-saving assets, nor will they rely on their well-to-do relations to be able to pay for Hajj anymore.
Under the new scheme, traditional institutions across the country are expected to mobilize people through awareness on the importance of the scheme for intending pilgrims.
We would like to appeal to all Muslims, particularly those that intend to proceed on the journey of faith, to embrace and participate actively in this scheme to enable them reap from its benefit and advantages.
The newly established National Hajj Savings Scheme will give every Nigerian Muslim the opportunity to perform Hajj once in a lifetime without depending on anyone for help, as well as create opportunity for investments among the intending pilgrims. Idris Jubrin, Channels Television News.
To maritime security and the oil and gas sector, the Lagos Zonal Office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says 2 vessels alongside 22 persons suspected to be involved in oil theft have been handed over to it by the Nigerian Navy in Lagos. In a statement, the EFCC explains that MV Poseidon and 10 crew members were arrested on July 20, 2020 by the Nigerian Navy ship Beecraft, with the vessel laden with 130 metric tons of substance suspected to be automotive gas oil, AGO. The Commission says it also received another vessel, MV Mother Comfort, with its 12 crew members after they were arrested by the same Navy ship on July 24, 2020. The vessel at the time of arrest was said to be carrying 237 metric tons of AGO. The EFCC says the vessels alongside the suspected oil thieves will be charged to court for alleged illegal dealing in petroleum product. As part of activities associated with the Homecoming Week at the University of Ibadan, the institution's Alumni Association has held its 6th National Annual Alumni Lecture. The lecture, tagged Stimulating the Development of the Nigerian Economy Through Inclusive Growth, was aimed at preferring solutions that will aid economic growth and development.
Unlike the usual lineup of activities to celebrate the annual homecoming event for the University of Ibadan Alumni Association, things take a different turn this year as alumni members gather for a public lecture and book presentation to mark the event nonetheless. The 6th National Annual Alumni Lecture seeks to proffer solutions to challenges that confront the nation, especially in the area of the economy.
Our country's economy is ranked as the 27th largest economy in the world in terms of nominal GDP and the 24th largest in terms of purchasing power parity. Of course, this keeps fluctuating.
We are sufficiently persuaded that in this dark period of economic downturn in our country, our alumnus and university are sufficiently enabled to provide solutions to our problems.
The guest lecturer, Adeshola Adedutan, the CEO of First Bank of Nigeria Limited, has been at the forefront of driving many services geared towards stimulating growth in the Nigerian economy. He believes that more can be done to achieve economic development in the country and highlight some areas of focus that will accelerate this.
Getting the rural areas to work through deliberate intervention, both on agro and non-agro initiatives, will be quite significant. The other important pillar of growth when you are practicing inclusive growth is investment in infrastructure.
Done with the speeches, the move to unveil a compendium of alumni that have made positive contributions in various fields.
1948 to 28.
An award is also given to the guest speaker, recognizing him as the most distinguished alumnus.
When you have recognition from your alma mater, where you school as a teenager and then you're now an adult, is an incentive for you to actually do more for the society.
The annual gathering of the body aims to re-emphasize the importance of belonging as they play their roles in advancing the cause of the University of Ibadan and the larger society.
And now for business news, here's Anne Wawado.
Thank you, Olumide. Hello and welcome to Business News. European Union member countries have picked two women, and that's Nigeria's former finance minister, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and South Korea's trade minister, Yoo Myung-hee, as the race for the World Trade Organization's top job gets tighter. The second phase of consultations, which began on September the 24th and will end tomorrow, October the 6th, with three other candidates still in the race for the WTO's next leader. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 6th of October, other members of the WTO will be asked in confidential to pick their preferences, which will finally reduce the number of candidates from 5 to 2. The next Director General of the Intergovernmental Trade Organization is expected to be announced on November the 7th. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasan, has asked the federal government to call the management of Chevron Nigeria Limited to halt its planned sack of 600 workers and subsequent replacement with expatriates in the United States. Leading a protest at Chevron's Lekki office, members of Pengasan joined by Nupeng and accused the company of holding its members hostage at various oil installations and platforms in the creek of the Niger Delta region, having asked them to reapply for their jobs. Meanwhile, Pengasan has directed its members to withdraw their services as it seeks dialogue with the management of Chevron over the planned layoff. Meanwhile, the management of Chevron Nigeria Limited has reacted to that protest by Pengasan. In a statement signed by a top official of Chevron Nigeria, Simaje Brekin, the company says that it plans to strengthen its business in order to remain competitive and more efficient in Nigeria in these tough times. The statement, which read in part, "Our aim is to have a business that is competitive and have an appropriately sized organization with improved processes. This will increase efficiency and effectiveness, retain value, reduce cost, and generate more revenue for the federal government of Nigeria." And let's now head to the local market, where its biggest gain since May was recorded today at the close of business, starting off October in full swing with a hangover of September's bullish performance. Let's get the details from Layo Adegoke.
Thank you for joining us for the stock market report. It's a blowout start for the stock market as the bulls extend their territory further into the first full trading week of October. This time, the market's benchmark index skyrocketed by 2.11% above the 27,000 level, just after it crossed back into 26,000 in two sessions last week. Traders attribute the strong rally recorded in the start of the week to the presentation of 13.08 trillion naira budget for 2021 fiscal year by President Muhammadu Buhari at the National Assembly later on Tuesday, September the 5th, as well as petroleum industry bill, which scaled first reading last week. Take a look at the sectoral chart. We can see that all the 5 sectors of the equities market ended positive, but the major performer is the banking sector, which gained 3.37% following increases in the share price of Zenith, as well as some key Tier 1 days. However, the 375 billion gained today comes largely on gains recorded by market giants such as Airtel Africa, which made a comeback after several months hiatus, as well as MTN Nigeria, Seplat, and 33 other advances which outperformed losses from Triple G and 9 other losers. We can see that investors are flocking back into the equities markets, which they consider will continue to give them constant return on their investment, and also that the new month will be rewarding. That's the stock market report. I'm Layo Adegoke.
And with that, we end business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. The rest of the news at 10 continues with Olumide. I'm Anne Nwawadu.
Thank you, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10. U.S. COVID-19 infections exceed 36,000 in one day as doctors certify President Trump fit to leave hospital today. Plus, more stories from our London studio on Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The team of doctors treating U.S. President Donald Trump at the Walter Reed Military Medical Center say his condition has improved. During a press briefing this evening, the doctors, led by the White House physician, Dr. Sean Conley, said the president has not had a fever in more than 72 hours and that he is to be discharged today to continue his treatment of COVID-19 at the White House. Here's some with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Donald Trump has been criticised by medical experts about his decision to greet supporters in a drive past outside the hospital where he is being treated for COVID-19. There are concerns Trump, who wore a mask, may have endangered Secret Service staff inside the car. Questions remain over the seriousness of Trump's illness after conflicting statements over the weekend. The president has been in hospital since Friday after he announced hours earlier he had tested positive for the virus. Coronavirus has infected nearly 7.4 million people and killed nearly 210,000 across the US. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. In the UK, a technical glitch which meant nearly 16,000 coronavirus cases went unreported has delayed efforts to trace contacts of people who tested positive for the virus. 15,841 infections between the 25th of September and the 2nd of October were left out of the UK daily case figures. That's according to Public Health England. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said the cases data had been lost, but added all people who had tested positive had been contacted and the tracers were now looking through all the contacts.
The incidence that we're seeing in the cases really sort of corresponds to pretty much where we thought we were. And to be frank, I think the slightly lower numbers that we'd seen, didn't really reflect where we thought the disease was likely to go. So I think these numbers are realistic.
Meanwhile, it has been announced that all bars in Paris will shut from Tuesday. It comes after the French government raised its capital city's coronavirus alert to maximum following a period of high infection rates. Stricter coronavirus restrictions have also come into force in the Russian capital Moscow after a surge in infections. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin has extended an upcoming school holiday by a week and has advised anyone with chronic health problems or those older than 65 to stay at home. 3 scientists who discovered the virus hepatitis C have won the 2020 Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology.
The 2020 Nobel Prize.
The winners are British scientist Michael Hawson and US researchers Harvey Alter and Charles Rice. The Nobel Prize Committee said their discoveries ultimately saved millions of lives. The virus is a common cause of liver cancer and a major reason why people need a liver transplant. At least 4 people have died and many more have been reported missing after flash floods have struck southeastern France and northwestern Italy. Dozens of houses have been destroyed and entire roads have been washed away in a mountainous border region near Nice. Rescue workers have stepped up their search efforts amid fears that up to 20 people are missing after battering the French Riviera. Storm Alex, which brought fierce winds and torrential rain, then moved into northern Italy where record rainfall has also been seen. The verdict in the trial of 3 men charged with helping the militants who attacked the Westgate shopping mall in Kenya's capital Nairobi has been postponed by a day. Magistrate Francis Adai has said that there were some sections in his ruling that had loose ends that needed to be tied up. This is the only trial in connection with the attack. At least 67 people died in the assault on the upmarket shopping complex in 2013. Somalia-based Islamist militants Al-Shabaab said they carried out the attack. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has called for a ceasefire in the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. On the 9th day of fighting, Armenia and Azerbaijan have accused each other of attacking civilian areas, where hundreds of people have been killed in the fiercest clashes in the region for more than 25 years. Stoltenberg has said there was no military solution to the conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh, which belongs to Azerbaijan under international law, but is populated and governed by ethnic Armenians.
It is extremely important that we convey a very clear message to all parties involved that they should cease fighting immediately, that we should support all efforts to find a peaceful, negotiated solution, because there is no military solution to the situation in and around Nagorno-Karabakh. And this has been a very clear message from me ever since the fighting started, because it is dangerous for all those people involved, but it's of course also something which is of great concern for the whole region and for all NATO allies.
And finally, tourism across China has soared as the National Day holiday continues. This year, the Golden Week of China's National Day holiday, which kicked off on October the 1st, will last for 8 days as the Mid-Autumn Festival coincides with the country's National Day. The Northwest Autonomous Region of Xinjiang has become one of the most popular travel destinations, attracting tourists with its distinctive scenery from the Gobi Desert to the vast prairies. And that's your international news around the world in 5. And now back to Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The Nigeria Football Federation, the NFF, has announced the appointment of Randy Waldrum as the new head coach of the senior women national team, the Super Falcons. Waldrum will work with former Super Falcons goalkeeper and captain Anne Chejine, who was the first assistant coach, while Wemimo Olariwaju will serve as second assistant coach and Alwar Bashir will be the goalkeeper's trainer. FC Barcelona have confirmed huge financial losses for the 2019-2020 season owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, with debt doubling to $575 million. The Spanish La Liga giants say they had hoped to hit $1.2 billion in revenue, but that was down to $1 billion as the season was suspended and fans were no longer able to attend matches. And Novak Djokovic has racked up his 35th win of 2020 and a place in the French Open quarterfinals for the 14th time with a 6-4, 6-3, 6-3 win over Russia's Karen Khachanov. The world number one converted 5 of his 14 breakpoints as he edged out Khachanov after 2 hours and 23 minutes. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, that's Sports News.
Thank you, Ayo. And the main news again, ahead of the October 10th Ondo governorship poll, the candidate of the SDP, Peter Fashua, today stepped down for the APC candidate, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, even as 11 political parties, including Fashua SDP's backed PDP candidate, Itayo Jegede. And that's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Do have a good night.